Leute und willkommen zurück zu meiner YouTube channel. And today is going to be another video. Hey guys, it's Effie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So today we're going to be talking about 20 different movies that are really good for spooky season. And I also highly recommend all of these on the list. I decided to do 20 instead of 10 because, let's face it, right now during the pandemic, we need more movies to watch. So here are 20 of them. These are not all going to be horror films at all. I feel like that's going to limit people in terms of what they can watch. I have a variety of psychological thrillers as well as horror films and classics. A lot of cult classic horror films too. And just classics in general. So here we go. Number 20 is going to be Rocky Horror. Now, this film takes place in 1975, which follows Janet and Brad, who are an engaged couple, and they get a flat tire. So they walk over to this ginormous mansion, and they are introduced to Dr. Frank Furter, which he is a sweet transvestite. And I just kind of gave away one of those songs. Anyway. But he is played by Tim Curry, and he is a doctor and basically a scientist. And then they discover all different kinds of elements of this new mansion. They were just trying to use the phone. And a lot of really cool things happen in this film. I really like this film, as well as I also really like as a play, because I actually recently, last year, went to see this play, because I already saw the movie. I've seen like a couple other remakes of the film that just didn't do it justice. But I did see the play recently, and I really liked the play a lot better than the movie. I don't know why. The actors that I saw were really, really good, and it was definitely very well rehearsed, because I just thought it was really cool, because you have a lot more audience participation when you see the play versus the film, because you can't yell certain things out to the narrator or to the cast members like you can in the film. I mean, in the play. So I'd highly recommend those of you who want to see the film, if it's possible to see it right now, which I don't think it is, but in the future, I would highly recommend seeing this as a play or even as a film. Right now, a film would probably be the best bet. Anyways, so number 19 is The Conjuring. This movie is from 2013. This is fairly recent of a film. And this follows a family that has 5 daughters and obviously a mom and a dad. And they buy this new remote and secluded farmhouse. And they discover a lot of different spooky things that happen there. And so Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are a married couple and also do paranormal investigation, are sent to this house to do some investigating and to figure out what's going on. And this is actually quite cool of a movie. I really freaked out a bit at this movie, but it is still one of my favorite films. I'm not really a fan of jump scares, so this kind of jumped a little bit. It didn't jump too much, but it jumped enough to where I get jumpy too. I'll be mentioning that in a few other of these movies here. But I still enjoyed the movie. Number 18 is Cabin in the Woods. This is from 2011. This is 9 years old as of this year. So this follows 5 college friends who go to this cabin in the woods. And they discover a lot of paranormal things, as well as they also discover why they are there. And that's pretty much what that movie is. It is quite interesting of a film. This is more of a psychological thriller to me than a horror film. It's a combination of the two, which makes it quite interesting because it has elements of both. And that actually helped me watch this film, because I get bored with movies kind of easily, and I'd have to be kind of dragged in or like pulled in some way, shape, or form. It had also very futuristic, to me, a futuristic appeal, just due to parts of the film that I saw that I thought were really, really cool, that I haven't seen in any other horror film before. I mean, I've seen in some horror films. It had kind of a Hunger Games vibe in a way to me. So it's also fairly good. Like, Chris Hemsworth is in this film, and I actually really like Chris Hemsworth as an actor. He's quite good. And there's many others too, but I can't remember their names off the top of my head. So number 17 is The Babysitter. This is about a little boy, and it's not exactly little, but his mom has to have him have a babysitter. He is an only child. So his babysitter is very attractive. I don't remember her name as the actress who plays her, but he discovers babysitter is part of this satanic cult that is trying to kill him. So it's quite interesting. It is on Netflix at the moment. I do believe it still is on there. It is a Netflix original, so I'm pretty sure that it is still on there. Number 16 is It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. This is from 1966 and this follows Charlie Brown and his friends along on Halloween. They are supposed to be trick-or-treating. The majority of them do go trick-or-treating. And it's quite interesting because Linus decides to stay behind. The reason why is because he believes in the Great Pumpkin. It is definitely a classic film for those of you who have never seen it before or who may not have seen it for a while and want to rewatch. This is also a good rewatch list too, because I've had to rewatch some of these. Number 15 is definitely something that I would feel really shitty if I did not have this on the list, which is The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is from 1993. This is about Jack Skellington, who stumbles upon Christmastown because he is tired of the way Halloweentown is running. And he wants a change. He wants a change of environment. And he also wants to incorporate Halloweentown and Christmastown together. So that's really what that is. There's many other different elements of The Nightmare Before Christmas in the film as well, but I feel like that's a really good base. Number 14 is Monster House. So this is based on the story of kids, actually. I don't know if they were all boys, but this is from 2006. So it's fairly recent. Not really. But this follows 3 kids who find this house. It looks like a house to them, but they think that it's out to get them. And none of the parents believe them, which is really frustrating to them. So then they decide during Halloween that they will try and destroy it before Halloween happens, just so trick-or-treaters aren't going to get seriously harmed by this house. So they think it is. They also believe it's out to get them. So number 13 is A Quiet Place. This is from 2018. This follows a family of 5, and it is about a place, mostly a town. I believe it's a smaller town. And they have to remain completely silent, or even just the slightest creak of wood or gravel or anything along the lines of any noise, you will be taken away or killed. Or I can't even really describe it. And they will find you and they will hunt you down and kill you. So this family has to fend for themselves and not make any noise. This is mostly a silent film, if you haven't kind of already guessed. It is very good, though. I will say that John Krasinski was really good in this. Granted, I've been watching him since The Office. And his wife was also really good in the film, too. That is Emily Blunt, by the way, who is in this. Number 12 is The Ring. So The Ring took place in 2002. And, well, it didn't really take place in 2002. It was made in 2002 and released in 2000. It was released in 2002. Anyways, this film follows 2 girls who are staying over at each other's houses this is just from what I remember. All of these are from what I remember. Anyways, this follows a videotape that people will die in 7 days if they see the tape. And the tape, they both believe is just a hoax. They don't really believe that it is a thing. So then they watch the tape and things happen. That's all I'm going to say. I'm trying not to give anything away. I am not very good at describing films, if you guys can tell. So the next film is going to be The Little Vampire. The Little Vampire is about a boy called Tony who recently moved to Scotland from the United States. And he's having trouble in school making friends, and he's been bullied a lot in Scotland. So he decides to befriend Rudolph, who is a vampire. And this vampire also becomes his friend. So they go on little adventures. Number 10 is The Silence of the Lambs. This film is quite interesting. I don't find it scary. I just find it kind of creepy. This is about Clarice, who is a FBI student, and she has to go on a mission to see Hannibal Lecter, who is a psychiatrist and is a brilliant psychiatrist, which is creepy, but he is in a state prison, and he is believed to have insight on certain crimes that have been happening throughout the United States. So Clarice has to talk him into spilling all the details on his knowledge of all of these crimes that have been going on that the FBI has to know about. Since Clarice is attractive, they believe that Clarice will have no problem getting this information out of Dr. Hannibal Lecter. It is quite a very interesting film. It is also quite disturbing in many different ways because it's just so very creepy. And his nickname for Dr. Hannibal Lecter is Hannibal the Cannibal. So just knowing that, you will find that it can be there are some quite gruesome details, but it is definitely a film worth seeing if you can. And definitely obviously worth watching too. All of these I find are worth watching. So, number 9 is Corpse Bride. So this takes place in a very dark and dingy place, kind of like my basement. This follows Victor and Victoria, who are set to get married through an arranged marriage. They end up liking each other, and, well, let's just say you'll have to see to find out the rest. And it's also just another Tim Burton film that I felt should be on the list too. Not just The Nightmare Before Christmas, but Tim Burton has a lot of brilliant movies out there. I really enjoyed this film. I've been watching this since it came out, which is around 2005 when it came out. I just remember watching it, and I wanted to see it even in the cinema. I believe it is also rated PG, so this is also quite appropriate for children to watch. It is definitely might be a little bit creepy for some children. I would say just obviously the PG thing, like just have a parent watch it with you or just someone older. Doesn't have to be a parent. It's not really that scary, to be honest. So number 8 is The Dark Crystal. This is from 1982. This is a Jim Henson film. So Jim Henson is the creator of Muppets. So you can kind of imagine what the puppetry is like in this film just from that. So this is about a boy called Jen who was informed that he is the last of his race, being Gelfling. And he has to find a shard of a dark crystal and is told that will unify the rest of the world. But he has to get through the Skeksis, which are these beetle-like creatures. They're kind of gross looking, to be honest. They're also quite just very weird creatures. But this is a very good film. It's an old film, but it's also a good film. I grew up watching this film and I don't know why people would let me watch this film. It's just one of those creepy kids films I feel like everybody should watch. I've been recommending this to people for years, since around 2005. So obviously, I consider this a good movie, but it's up to everybody's opinion. It doesn't have much of a plot line to it, as you will find out throughout the film. It's one of those films that's on the list that doesn't have much of a plot line to it. Number 7 is Halloweentown. This movie is from 1998. It follows Marnie and her siblings, as well as her grandmother and lots of other people. And they discover that they are witches. And Marnie didn't know beforehand that she was a witch. And so they go to Halloweentown, where people that are witches or creatures of any sort can act a normal life. This actually is also a series too. Like, there's a lot of different movies from this. It does star Debbie Reynolds, which, if we know who Debbie Reynolds is the mother of, which is Carrie Fisher, who passed away, as well as Debbie Reynolds. Very sad, but this is a very good film. It is also a child-appropriate one, and I do highly recommend this. Number 7 is Shutter Island. Now, this one is rated R, and for good reason, because this film was from 2010. Leo DiCaprio as well as Mark Ruffalo are in this film. This film is about a marshal, someone in the military, who goes to this place on Shutter Island. It is a hospital. I can't of the hospital. It's Ashcliffe, I believe. I'll put an annotation if I get that wrong. But it follows Teddy as well as his partner to this island where someone went missing from their room, just vanished randomly. And that person's name is Rachel Solando. And they are trying to find this person, as well as during the time that Teddy and his partner are there, they discover a lot of gruesome and a lot of creepy things and bad things that have gone on in the insane asylum. Now, number 5 is Carrie. Carrie is this film. There's 2 different versions that I'm going to talk about in this particular video because I like both of them a lot, and I feel like both people should see both of them. So there's the 1976 version, which is from that era. This is the older version of this film. This is how this franchise started, was through that film. Then I have the most recent one, which is from 2000 film. 2000 film. I'm not tired. 2013. And this follows a girl called Carrie. Now, Carrie is an outcast and who is always bullied and victimized by bullies because she is religious and her mom is heavily, heavily religious. This is in both films. But she discovers something about herself. She discovers several different things about herself, and also just, it's a very good film to watch. And it is also another classic film. It is probably considered a cult classic as far as I know. I don't know much about the cult classics, even though I seem to always gravitate toward them. But number 4 is The Shining. This is from 1980. This is another classic film, and for good reason. This follows Jack Torrance and his family. They are at this hotel in Colorado, and they have to basically watch the hotel I'm at during the winter because nobody visits the hotel in the winter. It's in a very abandoned area in Colorado. This is actually a tourist attraction in real life. And they discover a lot of creepy things that are going on in this hotel. Everybody is affected. And even Jack, who was only taking the job just for his writer's block, even he was having trouble with it. Anyways, that's just that part of that. Number 3 is Crawl. This is from 2019. I saw this in the cinema, and this film really made me jump because it is very jumpy. So this film is about Haley and her dad. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but Haley and her father are trapped under their crawl space because there's a bunch of water, and they find out that there's a bunch of alligators not only nesting but living in there because there's a Category 5 hurricane, and they had to try to get out, and just try and survive in this environment with a bunch of alligators who could potentially kill them, which is one of those monster films that I feel like everybody should watch. You know, it does give people quite a bit of anxiety watching it, but I got a little bit anxious watching it the first time, but I also really liked it because I like being scared for some reason. Number 2 is Rings. This is from 2017. This is another recent film that I've included on this list. This is another sequel to the first into The Ring. The Ring is very good too. It is a classic. Rings is the third sequel to this series, and the only one thus far. The only other one thus far that is left. This is about a girl called Julia and her boyfriend Holt. Julia ends up really concerned for her boyfriend while he's off at college, and discovers that he has a fascination with this film, that you die in 7 days. And they're trying to figure out what this whole tape has been about the whole time, and does so many different things. And then she discovers a lot about herself too, and a lot about just every single bit of that film, which definitely makes you get to know, if you've seen the first film, what it's about and what the whole thing has been about the whole time, which is a very good ending to this entire series. Number one, and probably the best one that I feel like I could come up with off the top of my head, this is Hocus Pocus. This was from 1993. I just watched this last night, actually, just to kind of get a fresher memory. This is about a boy called Max and his sister and their new friend, Allison. They were told in school about the Sanderson sisters, who allegedly were there during 300 years ago. And they were the Sanderson sisters. So they decide to explore their house, the Sanderson sisters' house, that they are told is haunted and spooky and all different kinds of things. And it's also it was a very good film. I watched this for years too. This is an older film too, but it's also very good and also pretty funny too. And the ending isn't too bad either. Anyway, guys, that's the end of this video. If you guys liked it, be sure to give a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel, as there will be more spooky videos coming soon. So, bye guys.